Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are finally on season 3 of Kuroko's Basketball. Yeah! I am so freaking excited. Look, I've been really excited, not just because we're finally here, even though we're not going to worry about this being the last season. We still got like a movie. Here's my thing. I am really excited. You would think I'd be sad because it's our last season of Kuroko's Basketball, but the Truck and Anime Annie and others on the Discord have pointed out, they're like, oh, by the way, you also still have the audio dramas, character songs, last movie, specials for the movie, specials for the season. And it just keeps on adding up. And I was like, yeah, we got a lot of Kuroko's content left. It's like, yes, we do. So, and honestly, the audio dramas, the character songs, the specials, they've just gotten me more hyped for this season, even more so. So, I'm freaking excited for season 3. I'm ready to finally get some answers about Akashi, what the hell his edgelord business is about. I'm ready to get some answers. I'm ready to see the final season. We're in the middle of the Winter Cup. We just beat Yosen, which was the quarterfinals. We are now in the semifinals, and there are 4 teams left. And we believe it's Kise's team that's going to be, I think it's going to be Kise's team against Seirin. I think that's pretty much what they've established. It's going to be Shutoku versus Akashi's team. And then who's going to make it to the final 2? Well, the finals are going to be Midorima versus Kise. What if it was? What if this series pulled the biggest troll card and was like, actually, it's going to be Kise's team versus Midorima's? And all the people watching the final are like, what? I definitely think if Seirin faces off against Kise's team, they're going to win because they've got to face Akashi's team, and Akashi's team is going to beat Midorima. But the good thing about Kuroko's Basketball, what makes it so exciting, is that even when you think you know the outcome, there is so much that they do in this series in terms of character development, in terms of fun, in terms of like superhero-like powers that make it so enjoyable to watch. And you're not bored even if you think you haven't figured out who's going to win. So that's what I love about Kuroko's Basketball. It's not predictable in terms of what you're going to get in a game. It's going to be dramatic. There's going to be shipping. It's going to be just a really fun time. And that's what I like about it. I really appreciate that about Kuroko's Basketball quite a bit. But I've been amped up these last 3 weeks, just gearing up. It doesn't feel like it's nearly been a month since season 2 ended, but here we are. So I'm so excited, y'all. And we're going to be looking at episodes 51, 52, and 53, or episodes 1, 2, and 3 of this first season, as we always do. And Anime Annie, she's put the end cards in the Discord, so when I get done with this reaction and my notes, I will go to the Discord and see those end cards, and then we'll have a discussion. But I don't think they'll go straight into the semifinals. I don't think they're gonna go straight into it. We still have the cliffhanger of Kagami has to make up with Himuro, right? They have to make up, right? Kuroko gave him the ring back being like, go best bro, go BF, and go make up with your brother. So I'm hoping that we start out the episode with that, but it wouldn't surprise me if we start out the episode like a day later or hours later, and then we backtrack and we go back to that moment. Wouldn't be surprised, but it's a new season. It's Kuroko's Basketball. Who knows what could happen? So I'm really excited, y'all, to see what we get down to. I hope you all are too. But we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive right in and see what's happening with our boys. And we are going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And double check my subtitles. They weren't on. How dare? And let's go. Well, I asked for season 3 to kick off with a bang. Ask and you shall receive. In spades. What? When we started episode 1, I was like, oh, it's going to be a recap episode. Oh, that's going to be boring. I'm going to waste an entire first episode with nothing happening. Nope. Wrong again. I was like, Kuroko's Basketball does not play around. They gave you 5 minutes to recap. Hope you caught up, because now we're introducing new characters in the 11th hour? Mangaka, excuse me? And I have a feeling this is only the beginning. I have a feeling the mangaka has like been hiding up their sleeves this entire cavalcade of new characters that they were like, you ready for this? And then just is going to spring it on us because what the fudge? I will give Kuroko's Basketball this. Just when you think you figured out the formula and you see it coming, no, it is on, y'all. And it is out of nowhere. And I'm like, what is this season so far? But Shogo, you're so awful. You're making me defend Hanamiya. Like, what? And in true Kuroko fashion, Kuroko. Okay, we will do a comparison with Hanamiya in a minute because maybe I'm not totally sympathizing with Hanamiya over Shogo because here's the thing. Kuroko had no sympathy towards Hanamiya. He did have a shred of sympathy towards Shogo in the end. So Hanamiya is still a garbage king, but there are aspects about Hanamiya that I can compare with positivity to Shogo, and that in itself should say something. Oh my god, these episodes. There were no end cards. There's no end credit scenes, are there? There were end cards, and I want to go over the end cards before we start, actually, just go ahead and talk about them. But I don't think there were any end credits. I didn't notice any in these end credits, although I want to go back to that one end credit just for a hot second. I'm not going to pay too much attention to them because I'm sure it's contextless spoilers, but I want to go back to that one because there was an image there I was like, there, baby Kuroko. I've said in the Discord I wanted to meet Kuroko's parents this entire time. I want to go back to that ED real quick and talk about it. But holy shit, this set of episodes, this show coming right out the gate. They're going to be like, hey, we don't have you for a long time, so we're going to make it a good time. That is Kuroko's Basketball. We only got 25 episodes this season. We're going to make it count. And the cavalcade of new characters is starting to come out. Akashi is mysterious as always. I have this hyper fascination with Akashi because he's so mysterious, and the show is going out of its way to make him mysterious. The show is wanting you to ask questions, and it's pulling the answer just away from you enough that you have to be like, oh, come on, show. And I know that they're going to give it to us, and I'm excited for the surprises that are along the way, but it's like, are you freaking serious? Come on. So, oh my god, we need to talk about these episodes. I want to play as hard as I can. It's mine, and stay out of my way. Man, Aomine, whoo! Generations and Miracles, whoo! Just like, do not mess with Aomine. We'll talk about him in this episode. But Shogo. Oh, and what a crazy transformation from like a character. The cool thing is he talks about like stealing moves, but he sucks them up like Jabba the Hutt, like ugh. The funny thing is he looks like an M&M or a Skittle that's been sucked on too long and it loses its color, right? And you can interpret that as however you want to. But yeah. I was like, the problem is he's like a straight character. We can't have a heterosexual character in this series. That's the problem is. That's where the problem's at. Stealing people's girlfriends. Get out of here. And meanwhile, we have the most wholesome ship, which is Kagami and Kuroko. We'll talk about them too. Oh my god. So let's just bring up the end cards. Go ahead and bring them up and get them out of the way. Because as soon as I wanted to see the end cards as soon as this episode set was over. And Anime Annie has been very gracious to put them in the Discord because she told me that in season 2, Crunchyroll didn't feature the end cards. And I was like, well, that's stupid. And then in season 3, she said that they are there, but you have to wait till after the preview. I don't watch the previews because I want to go into the next episode surprised. So I was like, I don't know if I want to try to time it out, like time the end of the preview with the end card popping up. So she's like, I'll just put them in the Discord and spoiler tag them until you're ready. And I was like, so thank you, Anime Annie. But yeah, the first end card, I'm sorry, y'all can ship Kuroko with whoever you want, but we started out season 3, very first end card, right out the bat with Kuroko and Kagami. Look at this shit. Look at this. Look at this preciousness with number 2. And I want to talk about character growth and character development. Look at how Kagami is not fearing number 2 anymore. Not shying away, sitting right there next to them. Look at Kuroko's face. Look at how adorable that is. They have matching little red and blue coffee cups. What else do you want? My shipper heart was already full from episode 53, but this just like gave it a little top it off. We just topped it off, right? Wonderful. And then the second one, these end cards are not, the end card for episode 52 and 53 are not my favorites, but I do like that we have, Shogo and then Kise back to back. And of course, it's the black hair and the gold hair figures. It's like oil and gold, right? And also, you can kind of see like where the cornrows are kind of dipping in. It's what they are supposed to be, I assume. But it's like, it's almost silver. So I'm like, dude, are you going to like dye your hair again? He was really handsome with silver hair. It's too bad his personality completely turns you off from him. But him and Kise, I was floored by the development, because I remembered when I was taking notes for episode 51, I remembered back in the last season where Kise's like, oh, after we win this game, we'll face you in semifinals. I thought we were just going to instantly go to it. I thought it was going to be like Kuroko and Seirin, where they beat those other teams and it was instantly in the quarterfinals. That's what I thought was going to happen. But then the moment we realized, oh crap, they still have another game to play. Oh crud, this guy was from Takeo. Oh crud, it's like I just kept building. I was like, I hope they win, because I wouldn't want Kagami would probably try to deck him on the court, right? Kagami and Aomine, both of them being like ready to throw hands if you get in the way, right? And then the end card for episode 53. This is really cute. I don't know what the picture is of. Maybe we're going to find out in the next episode what the picture is, or find out later. But it's Kise and Kasamatsu looking at a photo. Maybe it's a photo of the two of them. You know, just framing our BFs together. Like, look at this great photo of us, Kasamatsu. And he's like, I know. And then just like, but they look so soft there. It's so sweet. I'm like, it's really, really cute. I like Kasamatsu. What a precious jelly bean. I just wanted to like wrap him up in a blanket and take him with me. Just tell the driver, let's go, and then fly away with him. Yeah, so, oh my God, these episodes, I took notes. The recap, only 5 minutes. Good. I like that we had 5-minute recap, and then we had 5 minutes of Kise's super extra ability. Of Kise, it wasn't Kise in the zone. It was like his maxed out ability, right? Which is quite OP. Quite OP. I'm glad it has a timer, and I'm glad that he will. I wonder if he's going to use it against Kagami and Kuroko, but I imagine that, I don't know. I feel like Kise has exhausted himself in this match, that he's not going to be able to play as well against Seirin. I feel like Seirin, and I could be wrong, I feel like Seirin is going to win the semifinal game. I feel like it's going to be a good match. I feel like it's going to be all right. But I think that Kise, not only has his foot been stepped on while it was been injured, thank you, Shogo, you jerk, but also he like exhausted his ability just now. They just came off of this. He's exhausted. I think Seirin's not going to have much of a problem. I figured Seirin was going to go to the final anyway, because they have to face Akashi, because we need to know about Akashi. But I didn't know how much of a fight Kise would give them. But man, also Kise has gotten the shaft this whole series. I feel like the mangaka writes himself into a corner with Kise, because Kise's ability is pretty OP in itself, copying, especially if you can copy the Generation of Miracles. I feel like that's such an OP ability that the mangaka's like, what can I do to like put a hurdle in here to where it's not easy for him? And Kise's had to battle Aomine's team. He's had to battle Shogo. He's had to battle, like, the practice game was against Kuroko and Kagami when they were figuring stuff out. He's had to face Shutoku. Like, Kise's kind of had, like, the backseat shaft in this entire series as far as matches go. And we're finally going to get to see the rematch. Of course, we parallel season 1 to season 3. Like, it comes full circle, them all together. I really want next episode to see Kagami and Kuroko do, like, some signature stuff that, like, calls back to season 1, to their first couple of episodes together. I mean, their relationship has developed so much. I love that Kise went from, like, being, when we first met Kise, it was like he was a threat, like, to not only Seirin, but to Kagami and Kuroko's relationship. And now they're practically in OT3 too. They're like right up there in OT3 land, along with Aomine and Kuroko and Kagami. And it's like, I feel like though, the OT3 of Kagami, Kuroko, and Aomine is like a competitive OT3. They're like, we're going to play each other and be rivals and make each other better by playing, and that's how we're going to be together. And then with Kise and Kuroko and Kagami, it's like, we support each other 100,000%. And it's that kind of OT3, right? So totally different vibe. But God, I love it. So yeah, Hyuga. I love that when the reporters came in the recap to interview them, of all games for them to pick to highlight, Hyuga's like, let's talk about the Shitoku one. Not that Shitoku's game wasn't good. It was really good. I liked the Vanishing Drive getting used on Takao and Midorima. But to pick that one over Toho, really, Toho and Yosen, you could tell it was just a plot device to get them to talk about it, to recap everybody. But I love that Hyuga says that was the most memorable game. I'm like, I beg to differ. And then, like, we barely highlight Toho and Yosen. Of course, we just came off of season 2 with Toho and Yosen at the end, so maybe they felt the audience didn't need to be reminded as much of it, but I don't know what that says for Shitoku's game, if that is the case. But yeah, the Basketball Monthly reporters interview them. I love the reporter remembered Kuroko. The one guy was ready to leave. That guy was a douche. She was ready to get up. Okay, time to go. And the one reporter's like, but what about the sixth man? Like, what about Kuroko? I love that he remembered him, and I love that Kuroko got to speak. And there's a moment where Kagami looks down at him, and he's like you can almost say, like, he's proud of him. Like, Kuroko's getting a chance to voice and be vocal. It's like, yes, good on you, Kuroko. I love that. I love it. And so then we cut back. So I liked that they tied it in by showing that after the game, they did the press interview, and then we had Kagami and Kuroko being mad and getting Kagami to go after Himuro. I like that we tied all of that in. But damn it, we don't get them talking because of this asshole Shogo. We can't get them making up. I'm like, Sho, if you don't have Himuro and him make up by the end, I'm going to be so ticked off. And obviously, I don't want to be spoiled, but I was like, ugh. But yeah, like, the way that they had Shoko just come in, and I was like, first of all, no. Like, first of all, I was like, dude, stay away from Alex. She clearly wants nothing to do with you. And him just forcing himself on her. And I love that Himuro was like a big bro, or like a little big bro, and was like, hey, leave her alone. And then he just gets the shit kicked out of him. It's like, oh my gosh. So right after Himuro defends her, I like the transition, like the midway point where it's the cards and it has all their positions. Oddly enough, Kuroko's doesn't have his position on it, which is so weird to me. Like, we have Teppei is the center, obviously. Izuki is the power guard, or the point guard. He's the point guard. Hyuga is the shooting guard. And Kagami is the power forward, right? But then the Kuroko has, like, the question marks. I'm like, wouldn't Kuroko be the small forward? Or maybe they're not revealing it yet because they want it to, like, will it come out and be a big thing in the game, in the series? We'll see, right? But I thought that was interesting. But yeah, man, Kise noticing Shogo. And I get why the team wouldn't notice him at first, because he's went from having this silver hair and looking like a diluted Eminem to having, like, totally different hair. Like, he buzzed it off, it grew back, he grew it into cornrows. Like, he looks totally different. He even dyed his eyebrows to match. Totally different, right? So I get why he was kind of freaked out. And then we find out that I was wrong. Kise and Kaijo have to face Fukuda first before they go into the semifinals. So we have that. Shogo. Shogo's whole thing about he hates guys like Kamuro. I thought there was a whole thing with that. Like, Shogo is so interesting because of what he's like a negative version of a lot of characters we've had in this series so far. And when he said that to Muro, and we found out that he was a former Teiko player, but he wasn't good enough to be on the Generation of Miracles, or they weren't called that when he was on the team, my assumption was he was saying to Himuro that he hates characters and people like him because even when he knows there's no chance of him ever getting to the same levels of Generation of Miracles, he keeps trying. He keeps improving. He keeps getting better. He works super hard. He's textbook, and he keeps on doing the damn thing despite the fact that he knows there's a chance he may never catch up. And I think that Shogo hates that because he kind of envies that kind of personality and is sort of jealous that Himuro is willing to go all the way, even when he knows he's not going to get returns. It's fascinating. It's very fascinating. But yeah, we established Shogo was dangerous. on there, and that Akashi forced him to quit. And I'm going off my notes. I'm going to say some things in my notes for episode 51 that come back in episode 53, and I was like, awesome, good, glad we're connecting things. But yeah, the fact that Akashi forced him to quit, we'll talk about that when we get to it, right? And then Kise took his place. For Aomine to be mad at you, to be genuinely pissed off at you, you must be a terrible person. Because, again, I hate that I'm defending Hanamiya, but, like, Hanamiya wasn't worth Aomine's time. Aomine sitting in the bathroom was like, you know? But he genuinely gets mad. He genuinely gets mad at Shogo when he just was like, at Hanamiya. I was like, the fact that Aomine was like concerned and ticked off about this guy when he didn't even bat an eyelash at Hanamiya, that got me concerned right off the bat, right? And so Kagami arrives to apologize to Muro and say they need to be brothers again, sees Alex getting choked out. I wish she would have kicked him in the head. Would have been a great moment, but she doesn't get around to it. And then he just beat the tar out of Muro. Like, I was thinking, oh my God, he just got the snot kicked out of him. Like, it looked pretty bad. I was like, I wrote down, he is the worst attributes of Murasakibara and Aomine. He has all the loner qualities, the apathy, the lack of wanting to work, the lack of self-motivation, the hatred of basketball. He is the worst features of Murasakibara and Aomine rolled into one and given like a spritz of douche. It's just, he is just not a good character. And I would say, and the part where he says that Kagami isn't bad, like, here's the thing. He says he hates guys like Kamuro. Murasakibara said the same thing. And whether he's being, completely truthful or not, we can talk about. But that's something of Murasakibara. And the fact that he acknowledges Kagami is kind of like Aomine. So it's like the worst qualities of those two characters wrapped into this one individual. It's insane. And then, of course, Kasamatsu is like, I hate guys like this. Of course, Kasamatsu is like a precious angel being. Of course he would not like him. He just hates people like him. And Kagami notes that Shogo hates basketball. He's like, why are you acting like this? Like, a guy that loves basketball that's about to play in a game would not be going around trying to start a fight right before their match. He's like, you must hate basketball to want to do this. And he's like, yeah. It's crazy, but he doesn't really hate basketball. We'll talk about this. Again, he's the worst aspects of Murasakibara and Aomine. The worst parts of them, right? So then Kise arrives. Shogo says he's playing and says that and it shows, okay, my flashback notes said we saw Shogo playing, and then I put in my notes, Shogo beating someone up. Is it Kuroko or Akashi? We find out that he was about to beat up Akashi. Crazy talk. Akashi didn't... I'm going to say this. I feel like Kagami is more of a threat to Akashi than Shogo because Akashi didn't go at Shogo with a pair of scissors. Or maybe he did and that's why he chopped his hair off and dyed it back. Maybe that's the case. Maybe we've been fooled. I don't know. What we didn't see in these episodes was Akashi taking the scissors to his hair afterwards, right? No, joking. But yeah, so Shogo says though, he's like, I'm not out for revenge. I'm just killing time. I'm just doing this because I have nothing else to do. And that just gets, and he says the generation of miracles, and he was after he quit, like Shogo with the silver hair, Kise. The one shot of Kise with the hair in front of his eyeball, but we see the whites of his eyes. That was such a weird shot because we couldn't see what his eye and what his expression was. It was so weird. So weird. But yeah, and so he's yet to face Shogo, and then we have Fukuda versus Kaijo. Kuroko's freaked out because he knows how dangerous Shogo is, and then Kasamatsu seems to get it. He gets that Kise's worked up about this, and it's not a good thing. So Kasamatsu is very perceptive, more so than we give him credit for, right? And so then we start episode 52 with the middle school scene. What was so cool about the scene, going back and taking notes, is that in that opening scene of episode 52, Shogo steals the food off the plate. So it's foreshadowing of his ability, right? It's like, you don't copy, you steal. I was like, yes! The one time Romania Black gets a prediction right in this series. The one time! But I want to make note, Aomine totally stood up for Kuroko. He was like, hey, leave Kuroko's food alone. And had like the softness to his voice. my Aomine Kuroko shipper heart was very happy in that moment. And then, like, nobody defends Murasaki Bara, but Murasaki Bara doesn't need anybody to defend him. He's like holding his bowl like Levi holds a teacup in Attack on Titan. He's just holding his bowl and doesn't want to use his chopsticks, right? Midorima, of course. Midorima's like, manners. And Murasaki Bara's like, I don't care. And it's great. Cannot use chopsticks. Midorima chiding Hanazaki too. His name's Hanazaki. Also, I noticed throughout this episode set, people either called him Hanazaki or Shogo. They did not use honorifics. They did not use nicknames. They did not seem to give him enough respect to even like settle with a name. Like they did not respect him at all. They just called him whatever they wanted to. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, that's how he is, right? And so the sad thing is, Shogo would be a handsome character. He's a really handsomely designed character if his personality wasn't just like a bit of acid rain, right? His personality is just so awful that it's not attractive. I'm sure there's lots of people that love his character though, so I'm not dissing you all. You like what you like. I hear you. But for me, I was like, oh, his personality just ruins it for me. I'm like, dude. Up until the very end of episode 53, and then the mangaka throws us a bone, which we'll talk about. But yeah, he says the line, food looks good when someone else is eating it. Like, again, tying to that stealing, tying to possibly him being envious of others, things like that. Like, you steal when you want something. You steal when you covet something from someone. When you want something for them or you envy it. So, you know, imitation. You have Kise who uses his copycat ability, and it's like imitation is the highest form of flattery. Shogo ain't out to flatter anybody. He just wants it for himself. He's like, he's the little girl that wants the golden goose egg in Willy Wonka. He's like, it's mine! And just wants to take it for himself, right? So, Akashi, though. Akashi's been really weird in this episode set. It is not lost on me that his eye color did not change in the flashback, but it's like different colors now. My theory about Akashi is that either one, his eye changes color when he's reading the power of another basketball player and seeing what their ability is. It could be that, which is why he doesn't have his eye changing colors when they're eating lunch together at the middle school or when they're playing practice games because he already knows his team's ability. It's either that or, based on the conversation we get in episode 53, does Akashi use his eye to see the future? You would think that's crazy. There's no way. But Momoe can predict the future by predicting players' moves in the past and seeing what they will do. Is Akashi's like colored eye like a version of that? Like where he can see the future distantly or briefly? Because when he meets up with Shogo later, he's like, oh yeah, you know, you're on the team now, but you're going to get replaced by Kise sooner or later. I'm like, was that a premonition? Was it a vision? Or could you actually see the future? I don't want to know the answer to these questions. I'm just telling y'all what I'm thinking about now. I'm sure that theory will change as we go through the episodes. But yeah, he did shut one eye, like when he was talking about Shogo. So that part was kind of weird. And it was a different color. And then Kise, Shogo remembers his name and Midorima calls him out for it. He's like, why would you remember Kise's name? Because he viewed Kise as a threat. And so yeah, the teammates resenting Shogo, which he's an asshole to them. They absolutely should. But I like that Kasamatsu notes that he knows that the point guard on Fukuda's team is really good. He was like one that could compete and be like, he could be like an uncrowned king if he wanted to be. And I like that Hyuga, we cut back to the stands, and Hyuga makes note that, you know, even though we got Kuroko on our team and Kagami is kind of like an honorary Generation of Miracles player at this point, Hyuga's like, back in the day, the Generation of Miracles were villains. They were the bad guys because they won all the time and all the other teams hated them. So yeah, they were not favored. They were the bad guys. And they say that Shogo's reputation for violence only compounded upon that. It's like, oh, okay. That all makes sense. Gotcha. And so Kaijo, I love Kaijo's team. I love Kasamatsu and Kise so much. Kaijo's probably my least favorite team that the Generation of Miracles are on. That and Yosen, I guess. But I even like Yosen has some memorable characters. Kaijo's team has some good characters, but I feel like other than Kise and Kasamatsu, the others are just kind of like, I forget about them very easily, right? But they are a bunch of goofballs, right? But then we cut back to the game. Shogo shoves his teammates aside, berates them, and basically, he's like, again, he's the worst attributes of Aomine, because Aomine would be like, give me the ball, let me score, and takes the ball from them. But he at least ignores the team, if anything. That's the worst he does. Like, Shogo just outright is awful to them. And it's like, why? Why are you this way? Why are you the way that you are? And Kasamatsu hates people like Shogo. And he actually compliments Hanamiya, which is, when Hanamiya is getting complimented in this show, Hanamiya, you know a character is bad. Because Kasamatsu's like, look, it's kind of a backhanded compliment, though, because Hanamiya is like, look, or Kasamatsu's like, look, Hanamiya is garbage. But he is the center of his team, and his teammates somehow are totally fine with it. So yeah, so it's like, Kasamatsu's like, look, I hate Hanamiya like anybody else, but he at least is the center of his team, and he cares. This guy doesn't care about anything. His team's just kind of using him because he's good. And again, it's like the dark side of Toho, where they only had Aomine because of his ability, but they still forged these relationships with him. Whereas with Shogo, he's just doing this because he's still playing basketball because he likes it, right? And I think that's why Kuroko still like went after him when he was tossing his shoes into the incinerator. We'll talk about that scene when we get to it. But I feel like he still likes basketball. He just doesn't want to admit it, right? He needs to be reminded, whereas the others don't, right? So yeah, Riko and Hyuga, I love they're back up in the stands, like our power couple are like, we're gonna kill him. We will teach him a lesson. I love our couple getting some moments together, like being on the same wavelength. I love that with Riko and Hyuga. And then, yeah, so we get the details about Kaijo. Kasamatsu is a point guard. Moriyama, which is the one that likes girls, is a shooting guard. Our boy Kise is a small forward. Kobori is a center. And then Hayakawa, who can jump, is a power forward. So that's their positions. And I like that we differentiate. Teppei goes on like, Teppei is like Seirin's version of Midorima. He has all the knowledge. And she says it very teacherly, right? But Teppei, he says that there's two types of jumps. You can either do like a explosive force, or you can get hang time. And Kagami gets hang time. He can stay in the air longer. Whereas Hanakawa actually makes a point of just like jumping up into the air to get the ball, right? And he uses that explosive power from the start. Explosive jumps versus hang time. And then it didn't dawn on me until I was taking notes, but we got that little cutback, and Kagami was like, oh, wow, Kise is using that slam dunk that I used against him back when we first had our practice match against him. And at first I was like, oh, well, that's a really cool callback to season 1. That's impressive, the mangaka remembered. But it's not just a callback. It's the fact that it's foreshadowing that Kise has figured out what Shogo's ability is, and is trying to like give him certain moves to steal that he won't need to use later, and he's holding the good ones close to the vest. And I'm like, oh, this episode set had great foreshadowing, and I was like, all makes sense now, right? He was using moves from season 1. And then I love it, copying versus stealing. And he's like, that's why he's been doing the whole tongue thing, right? Now, what's interesting is that in the flashback, we had Shogo versus Kise for the top spot. And they are just setting us up with Midorima and Akashi's like relationship, because in that flashback, you have Murasakibara and Kuroko and Aomine like off to the side here by themselves, which Aomine and Murasakibara together, now looking back on the last game, is much more interesting to think about that dynamic, especially with Aomine watching Murasakibara in the game. But with Midorima and Akashi, it's like they mutually respect one another, I think. But then Akashi's like, my word is law. And it's like, okay, diva, let's cut the brakes. But yeah, it makes sense they're vice captain and captain, though, so that's why they would be together. It's just interesting. And Akashi's eyes are the same color during that whole scene. Now, Shogo, like, dude, I'm so glad Kise got to clap back about the girlfriend, because he was just like, I stole your girlfriend. And Kise's like, well, she was a hoe. And I was like, yes! Yes! I was like, Kise's like, well, joke's on you. You just got my sloppy seconds. And I was like, that's how you handle it, Kise. That's how you handle that moment. Because I was like, Shogo, why are you bringing this up? You stole his girlfriend over a year ago. Why does he care? Why are you holding that against him? And then Kise's comeback was everything. He was like, well, she's a trollop and I'm glad you got her. And I was like, yes, that's our boy. That's our boy. But the episode being called It's Mine is so fitting for Shogo because it's bratty, it's possessive, it's slimy. It just fits Shogo so darn well. And I like the idea of stay out of my way is Kise's, like, his declaration of being like, we're going to face Seirine, not you losers. Get out. So, yeah. So then we have episode 53, episode 3. And again, we do all the parallels with Aomine and Murasaki Bara. Murasaki Bara and Shogo have the parallels in terms of food. But here we have street ball. And Aomine playing street ball. And then a Shogo doing the same. And Shogo says he didn't have to steal their moves to beat them. I was like, I see how it is. But yeah, just seeing the difference between the look of Shogo then versus now. And when they were like, oh, it's that middle schooler. I'm like, what middle schooler? Like, Kuroko's basketball has like the worst portrayal of middle schoolers. Like, there's no way they look that old. No. Like, he was in middle school and as tall as the other guys he's playing against that are full-grown adults. I'm sorry. What? Boys' bodies don't work that way. But he's, when he faces them and gets done, he's like, your moves weren't even worth stealing. Like, he's like, I didn't even have to try with you all. And the thing of it is, at this point, we find out that he's quit the basketball team. We don't know at first. So it almost makes the fact that he's still wearing a school uniform almost makes you think that he's doing it while he's still on the team. But the fact that he's like playing these guys in street ball after he's quit just goes to show that he doesn't hate basketball or give a shit about it. He does give a shit. He does care. And it was that moment in this episode where the mangaka gives you just a shred, a tiny little breadcrumb of sympathy towards him that I'm like, okay, I'm kind of like Kuroko. I want to give you the benefit of the doubt, even though you're garbage. So I still don't like him at all. I'm like, oh my God, no. Unless he changes, unless he gets better as the series goes on, I'm like, dude, you need to get out the way. Right? So yeah, and then they ask him if he's in the Generation of Miracles. And that's such a frustrating thing for him. I do kind of get that frustration because he's sitting there being like, since I quit, everybody keeps bringing them up, which is very fascinating. And it makes me think, because here's the thing with Akashi. Akashi tells him later, and we'll get to that scene when we do, Akashi tells him later that he needs to quit. And my thing is, I feel like Akashi is all about winning and putting together the perfect team. Like, that's what he's been doing. Now, obviously, that team split up, so whatever your plans were there. But I feel like his whole goal was to put together the perfect team. And I feel like Akashi could see the writing on the wall that, one, the other players don't get along with Shogo. They don't gel with him. He has no chemistry with them. But also, Shogo is a loose cannon that is prone to violence and is also not a very good listener. And if Akashi's going to run a cult, he needs people that's going to listen to him. And Murasaki Bara, Akashi's got a secret candy stash for him. Midorima, they play secret shogi and, make out on the side. Joking. And then Kuroko just wants to be friends with everybody. Aomine respects Akashi because of his skill, probably. And then Kise just wants to be accepted, so he's going to be like, oh, sure, I'm the new guy. I'll join the team. So those five are going to gel with Akashi, and Akashi's going to be able to keep control of them in return. But I feel like he was seeing the writing on the wall that Shogo was not going to listen to him and was just going to get worse and more violent and more conflicting with his own teammates. And Akashi's like, we need to nip this in the bud now before it gets to a point where we're not going to win games because of you. And this was his way of giving him an out. I don't know. I could be wrong. But I feel a little bit bad for Shogo because he seems like he's envious and jealous that the moment he leaves, things work out right as rain. And he ties that back to Akashi telling him to quit. And we'll talk about that later. But And then we cut back to him on the bench being annoying and being a brat. Still don't like him. Still not happy with his character, but I kind of understand his backstory a little more. But man, this whole game made you feel really worried about Kaijo and if they were going to catch up, because they were behind like till like 5 minutes left of the fourth quarter. Like, and behind by like a dozen points. Like, it wasn't just like a 2-point game. It was pretty bad. And Kise's just trying, but man, Kise, the moment at that damn practice, I was getting Oikawa vibes from Haikyuu. I was getting Oikawa vibes where he's like, oh, I hurt myself. I was like, don't you dare. I was getting free shoulder vibes. I was like, stop. And the thing about it is that Riko, you can almost hear the lamenting in Riko's voice where she's like, they're letting him play on this bad foot. It's not healed all the way. He got it from way back in Aomine's game against him, and he's not healed it properly. She's like, he needed a physical therapist, and I could have done it if I had been available. But instead, Kise's now struggling from it. And that makes me think that the next game is not going to be nearly as bad against Seirin because Kise's injured, but we'll see. But you could just see the lament. And poor Kise, he's just trying his best, but it's just not working. He's stealing their abilities. And they're not their usual self because they can't get in a rhythm and they can't do the things that they need to do. And then we find out that, yeah, Kise's overworked. His foot is injured. It's not good. Oh my gosh. And then again, Hanazaki, like, he gets onto him about his girlfriend. And I am with Kasamatsu. Kasamatsu's like, you leave him alone. And like, I feel like Kasamatsu had to be held back. I was like, that's damn right, Kasamatsu. You go up there. Because, yeah, he's like, I stole your girlfriend, didn't I? And I'm like, why are you bringing this up on the court? He's like, I dumped her as soon as I was done with her. I'm like, dude, you are a catch for sure. Ugh. Like, I was like, just instantly over him. I was with Kasamatsu, like, vein on my forehead. That bastard's head is big enough. And I love that the one that likes girls, Moriyama's just sitting there like, it's unspeakable. Like, how dare he be so offensive? How dare he get game when he is such an asshole? It's like, that is the unfortunate nature of so many things. But yeah, I like even the ref. The ref ain't seeing shit for days. The ref ain't seeing any of the bad stuff happening, but he hears, hey, don't be disrespecting women. At least we have that going for us. #feminism. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll be careful. Yeah. And I love that Aomine just looks pissed off, and Momoi's like, Ki-chan. And the thing that gets me is that Kagami was getting worked up about Kise. Kagami's like, he made us a promise, man. He made us a promise that we were going to play together. And I'm like, my heart. And Kagami, here's the thing about Kagami and Kuroko. Whenever Kagami gets riled up and he just gets to where he's like, how dare he? And he's about to have this emotional outburst. Kuroko's like, back up. I got this, bae. I got this, boo. We're good. Like, Kuroko's like, I'll stand up and support him. Because it's like, it's one thing. I wanted Kagami to yell to Kise to support him, because it would have been a nice callback to when Kise helped Kagami out in the last game, or in the game against Toho. It would have been a nice callback to that. But it makes much more sense thematically and in the long run if it is Kuroko giving him praise. Because since the beginning, Kagami has been our MVP cheerleader for Seirin. So the fact that Kuroko not only yells, because that's a big thing for Kuroko to do, but to Kise and saying, I believe in you. My heart. My absolute heart. I love it. And I love the look that Kise gives him. And Kuroko's just staring at him with these fierce, determined eyes. I'm going to take a picture of it. Like, just these fierce, determined eyes. Like, come on, Kise, don't you dare give up. Don't you dare lose to this walking garbage heap. I love it. I love that Kise, he's like, Kuroko-chi. And then him smiling. And I love Shogo's like, what? And for the first time he says, Shogo-kun, before I beat you, you should know that you have the wrong idea about her. And I was like, oh my God. The way she followed me around and called herself my girlfriend was annoying. I was like, oh, just get at it. Get at it. She just wanted people to know she was dating a model. She was trash, just like you. You are meant for each other. I love it. I love Kise defending himself. It's such a great scene. Don't let it get to your head. And he's like, what? Oh my God. It's a great moment. It's such a good moment. He's like, does that mean we can be friends now, you and me? And then, yeah, that's such a great transition. Because, yeah, he says, I'm going to drag you. He's like, you have nothing left. You're just dregs now. And he's like, oh, so I'm like you. And I was like, ah! And then him using Midorima's shot. Oh, my God. It was great. It was chef's kiss moment. And I was worried. I was like, because I wondered if he was going to bring out Aomine's moves. But then I was worried and thought that he wasn't because he didn't want Shogo to steal them. But then we find out that you have to be worthy and chosen to inherit the moves of the Generation of Miracles, and you ain't that. So I wonder if, again, I'm wondering with Akashi's ability, if he could see the future and could see that because Akashi seems like he's been putting together this team of like the dream team, the Monstars, if you will. And so I feel like maybe he had a Shogo on the team until he realized Kise was going to be able to do more and have more potential. Maybe Akashi's ability is to sense the full potential in people. Maybe that is his ability. Maybe that's why he's been pushing certain characters. Maybe that's why he's trying to limit Kuroko, because Kuroko's like a bottomless pit of endless potential and Akashi was scared of it. Don't know. We'll find out. But there was a subtitle in this episode that I almost wrote it down, but it was about something, and if I get to it, I will let you all know. But there was a word mentioned that was not a word I thought it was. And so now we have the idea that he can... using all the abilities of all the Generation Miracles takes a huge toll on his body, obviously. And they try to logically explain it, but it's like, they try to logically explain the perfect copy move, but it's like, you can try to explain it all you want. They tried to explain Shogo's moves, and I'm like, at this point in the series, I have come to understand that Kuroko's basketball has a minute, slightly fantastical element to it, and I'm fine with it. It's not trying to be too realistic. It can get a little crazy. Okay, yes, when they said the phrase, if it's women or titles you want, you can have them all. Full disclosure, I read that subtitle and thought it said, if it's women or titties you want, you can have them all. And I about died because I was like, basically, Kise was like, you can be heterosexual all you want. I don't care. And I was like, ugh. I had a moment, y'all. I was having a moment. Titles and another word was really getting mixed up. And I was like, oh. And then he says, stay out of my way. Oh, I love it. He has like the sonic rings in his eyes. It's great. Everybody's all freaked out about his abilities. Aomine is like, it's really cool. Again, they try to explain it, but it's like, come on. You don't have to. It's fine. And then, yeah, just Kise fighting through his injury, everything to win the game. I love it. He said, you'd steal the title of the Generation of Miracles. I'd love to see you try. It's so good. And then we have again, Akashi is like in a dark gymnasium with no lights on. Like there's a light switch. You guys could press it. It's not a hard thing to do. And it's just the two of them. So like, am I prematurely shipping Shogo and Akashi? I mean, Shogo is just one letter off from Akashi's favorite game. Am I prematurely shipping? I don't know. But I want to go back to this conversation he has with him. Like, he says, you need to quit. It's one thing for a captain to tell someone to quit the team, to saying it's an order. Like you have to quit. Like, just kick him off. Why do you... But then he says, he's like, what? He's like, I'm being considerate of you. And then they have Teiko's slogan that says 100 battles, 100 victories, meaning like we never lose. Saying, though your behavior is hardly praiseworthy... Hardly praiseworthy seems awfully respectable of you to say, Akashi. He says you've contributed to Teiko's victory. So he's like, you've helped us win, so I'm giving you an out. and letting you leave on your own terms. But then he says it's an order, so like, is it really on his own terms? And then as the sheet's like flowing in the wind, he says, you cannot beat Kise. And he looks very sincere in that moment. Like there's a softness to Akashi when he tells him that. He says, in the near future, he will replace you as a starter. I'm like, well, yes, that is going to happen because he's going to quit. You're making your own future happen, sir. And I was trying to think like, okay, if he hadn't made him quit and just replaced Shogo with Kise, what would have happened? Well, Shogo probably would have got pissed and tried to hurt somebody. So maybe Akashi's like, look, I know you're going to get ticked off, but you're not going to stay a starter. I'm not going to let you stay a starter. Kise's got more potential than you. Bye. Leave on your own terms or we'll make you leave. Or you'll get something happen to your reputation or on your class record or something like that. But there's just something there's something really bizarre about him being so calm in this moment with an extremely aggressive person like Shogo, and then him launching scissors in the face of Kagami, who hasn't done a damn thing to him. So times apparently change a person, right? Right? Or maybe he had his eye in that moment using it. Maybe he sensed Kagami's potential, or that Kagami was a threat and was like, gonna stab you in the face now. I don't know. The mystery on Akashi is great. I'm living for it. And he says, you're too proud to stick around. So just leave now. And yeah, Shogo's like, he says it'll happen sooner or later. I'm like, well, that's cryptic. But the result will be the same. And he's like, you bastard. Like, just the way he says it, like he's so certain. And then he questions, was Akashi right? I don't know. He's like, but I have to admit, though. Ryota, you're strong. And it's such a good, I love it. I love this there. And Kasamatsu! Can we talk about Kasamatsu grabbing Kise's head and shaking it, looking like he's about to kiss him on the lips? Can we talk about that? I freaking love that moment where he like grabs him and shakes him. It's so cute. He says, you're killing my brain cells. And Kasamatsu's like, you didn't have any to begin with. I love it. And then everybody looks so serious. The next opponent is Seirin. Yep. I like that Kasamatsu like went over and shook the hand of the point guard that he was like friends with. I loved that. That was such a great moment. But man, you know what caps off this? The moment that Kise throws the fist up and Kagami and Kuroko are looking down like, yeah, that's right. And Kise's just like, I did it, guys. Fist bump just like Aomine. It was such a good moment. I'm really happy for Kise. I was going to feel really bad if they lost. And then I like that Kasamatsu has this beautiful moment of sportsmanship with the captain of Fukuda being like, you guys were strong. This was a good game. And it's just like Kasamatsu was so humble and great in that moment. And Shogo just couldn't take it. Shogo was like, how dare you be humble and try to make this into something. But man, and again, just like with Hanamiya, Aomine saw Hanamiya's reactions on the court and was like, I'm going to go to the bathroom and take care of things. Hanamiya is like freaking Batman. Or not Hanamiya. Aomine is Batman. Aomine has been looking above from the skyscrapers down at the scum villainy below and is like, gotta go take care of this. Hold on. Because yeah, he saw Hanamiya's reaction down on the court and was like, I'm going to go take care of this before it gets any worse. And then he saw Shogo's expression and was like, Momoy. And also, Aomine is a secret softie. Aomine is a secret gentleman. He did not want Momoy to be in the middle of that fight. Probably because he knows what a douche lord Shogo is. And so he's like, hey, I'll be back. And man, Aomine, you talk about putting your money where your mouth is. Aomine is like, Kaido's not coming out. You sitting here going to pick a fight after the game? You take your battles and you do them on the court. You don't do your shit off the court. I was like, Aomine rising up the ranks already this season. I put him down below last season, but he has already out the gate been like, oh yes, I am fighting to be one of your favorites. Because I was like, hell yes. He's like, if you're thinking about getting revenge on Kise, don't bother. And I just love how like Shogo is instantly like, oh my god, oh shit. Like, no way. He's like, oh, well, whatever, Baka. He's like, if you're going to play ball, I don't care what you do, but you don't mess with them by doing some stupid shit off the court. And just those eyes. Aomine is like, has the same ferocity as Kagami, but Kagami is like a raw, loose cannon. And Aomine is like, I can be quiet. I just need to hit you once and you ain't getting back up. I was like, oh my God. I loved it. He's like, don't do anything else stupid. And then Aomine is like, okay, you keep running your mouth. And he just punches him once. And that's it. I love it. I love they just be literally like Aomine just punches him once. And I love that he's like on the ground. He's like, oh, well, I'm sure it'll work out. I love that he's like, we'll be fine. But then here's the thing. You don't care as long as it's basketball, huh? So yeah, here's the thing. Aomine is like, if you got an issue with somebody, settle on the court. Not through violence. You just settle on the court. Let bygones be bygones. And then we cut to him. First of all, like, get these kids in middle school away from the furnace. Where's your supervising chaperone, sir? But I love that Kuroko, despite what an awful person Shogo is, what a terrible personality he has, Kuroko, because he is our precious cinnamon bun, was like, don't throw away your basketball shoes. He was like, you could still play with us. Why would you give that up? Not realizing what Akashi had said to him. So what I like about this is it sets up this dynamic between Akashi and Kuroko, where Kuroko's like, don't give up. We can still play and have fun. Like, he's like, let's be friends, BFFs, and be best friends on the court forever. And Akashi is just like, get out of my way. Again, that line, stay out of my way, the episode title. He's like, if you're not going to contribute to our victory, get out. And Kuroko's like, stay and play. So it's like, it's a very different dynamic, and I really like it. I like that we've setting up, we have Kuroko and Akashi, who I feel like are going to be against each other at the end of all things. And it's like, which also it's like Flock and Levi's voice actors against one another, which I'm really excited about. So, But I love that Tetsu was so nice to him, like, even though, and the thing about it is that despite it all, Shogo doesn't try to beat up Tetsuya. He doesn't push him aside. He calls him a baka, but he doesn't, like, get in his face or try to beat him up or anything. I feel like Tetsu is, with them puppy dog eyes, I don't blame anybody for, like, succumbing to the sweetness that is Tetsuya Kuroko. And this line that he says, though, he says, deep down, do you think deep down I'm actually serious? And he tosses the shoes into the fire. He says, do I think I really care about this game? And Kuroko's just like, oh! And then he says, some guys really are bad to the bone or even terrifying. And that's when we cut back to Akashi. I'm like, no, Akashi is the bad to the bone one that is scary. For reasons that we will most likely find out in this season. And then I like that he says there's no guarantee the rest of you who stay on the team won't be worse off. And that is true. He's like, you guys think that being on this team with Akashi is a good thing. It might not be. So, which granted, I will say this for Shogo, he wasn't summoned to a cult meeting, so maybe there's one thing he's right about in this entire episode set. Maybe! But what I love is that he goes to throw away the shoes, and he doesn't do it this time around. He keeps a hold of them because he does like basketball. Again, he's the worst of Murasaki Bara, but even Murasaki Bara liked basketball. So he does like the sport. He just doesn't want to admit it. Oh, and then Kuroko was looking at, I don't know what he was looking at. Was he looking at the light with the gymnasium? Was there something above it he was staring at? And he's like, oh, it's nothing. I was like, what was he looking at? And then it was the Tokyo Metropolitan Gymnasium. Like, why? Why looking at the triangle? And so then we have, Rakuzan versus Shitoku, which is Midorima versus Akashi, and then Kaijo versus Seirin. Oh my god! So I wanted to go back real quick to Kuroko in this ED. Kuroko in the tiny little bear costume as a baby. Freaking precious. Look at this bean. Look at this cuteness. And we see him as a baby. with the rattler. Okay, we see his parents clearly feeding him. They did notice he was around. We see him looking at the plane. Okay, we see him with the rabbit. Adorable. We see him with a black cat, which is cute. I like it. We see him with reaching for his, oh, we saw his mom! We see his mom with him. His mom has brown, dark hair. She has, like, black hair. His mom does. Cute. Okay. The mom, it'd be amazing if the parents were, like, the most plain people possible. Kuroko has this translucent hair that you would think would stand out in anything, but nobody notices him. If his parents were the most normal people possible, that would be hilarious. But yeah, we see his mom. His mom has black hair. Okay. And then we see, like, actually kids are noticing him. Isn't that cute? And then we see him playing in the games. Like he's running there. Oh, we see him with a little black cat and it has kittens and he's getting older. That's cute. Okay, we see him reading aloud in class, so people notice him there. Maybe that's him and his dad, like, fishing. We see him playing basketball. Okay. And then he's become part of Skate the Infinity. What if him and Longa are related? That's it. Nope, we've connected the universes. Him and Longa are secretly related. There we go. If you've watched Skate the Infinity, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you haven't watched Skate the Infinity, what are you doing right now? Go watch it. But yeah, okay. So there's someone else in the photos with him. There's someone with black hair graduating with him that he's friends with and crying that we've not seen before. Was that Shogo or was it somebody else? What? What is this? Kuroko basketball, what are you doing giving us these characters in the 11th hour? Why did he look so, like, friendly with that person? Get out of here. Don't you be messing with my Kagakuro ship. Leave. And then, yeah, we see Shitoku on a shoe date. Takao is right next to Midorima, surprising no one. And then we see Kasamatsu and Kise acting like Oikawa and Waizumi with their video games because Haikyuu's had the exact same spread. Not that I wouldn't know. Imayoshi? Is that Imayoshi getting out of the pool looking fine as hell? I think it is. Because then we have, yeah, it is. Because we have Toho. Aomine in the Speedo! The one piece of fan art we get. The one piece of official art which is Aomine looking amazing. Look at this. Look at this business. Imayoshi has no right to get a spread like that. He does not. But yeah, I love that we have Aomine in the Speedo. Diving off the diving board, of course we do. And then we have Himuro with Alex. Very cute. Murasaki Bara's there too because it's a date. And then we have the rest of Yosen. Akashi with the violin in the beautiful home. Yes, of course. And then we have, oh my gosh, we have all of them together. That's so cute. And Teppei, like, they're making little posters for basketball. That's sweet. I like that Aomine is with number 2. Adorable. Maybe that is the end cards. I feel like we didn't get any end credit scenes, but I'm going to go back and check and see if we did. And then I will put them up here if we got any end card. And if we've got any end credit scenes, I will put them up here for you all to see, right? We'll see if that's the case. But man, this was a great start to season 3. I have so many questions. I have so much to think about. There's so much mystery about, we're getting all new characters. We still have Akashi and his team to go over. We haven't even talked about that. There's so much to go over, y'all. And I have a feeling it's going to get crazy. But welcome to season 3 of Kuroko's Basketball. So, y'all, in the meantime, I hope y'all enjoyed this reaction discussion. It was wild, it was fun, and I'm already ready for the next set. So, in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more of Kuroko's Basketball. Bye.